don't know what you're going through, but we stopped by to tell you that what's in front of you is bigger than what's behind you. Your destiny, your promise, your future. You might as well shout before you get it, because God sent me here to tell you that what he has for you is gonna be big.
I believe
that it's my season.
that it's my season.
You ought to declare that over your own life. Say, I believe
I believe
that it's my time.
that it's my time.
It's my time.
It's my time.
And I can feel it.
I can feel it.
Say, breakthroughs in the room.
Breakthroughs in the room.
It's yours if you want it. Anticipating. God's getting ready to move.
God's getting ready to move.
Listen, you ought to declare this over your own life. Say it.
For I know
God,
my God
he's working
is
a miracle just for me.
Just for me.
And it's gonna be.
And it's gonna be.
Listen, don't let negativity, doubt, or your haters convince you that God is not about to bless you. It's gonna be.
And it's gonna be.
What's in front of you is bigger than what's behind you. You gotta learn how to praise God before you get it. Say, I believe that it's my season.
It's my season.
It's my season.
It's my season.
And I believe that it's my time.
It's my time.
It's my time.
It's my time.
And I can feel it.
I can feel it.
Breakthrough, yeah.
Breakthroughs in the room.
I'm anticipating. God's getting ready to move.
God's getting ready to move.
Listen, say this with me. For I know God, he's working a miracle.
Just for me.
And it's gonna be big. Hey, listen, I don't know about you, but I'm excited about my future. Why? It's gonna be big, yeah.
And it's gonna be big.
I'm running into destiny, shouting into my promise. Why? God's gonna
God's gonna open the windows of heaven. Pour me out a blessing.
I won't have room.
Be wrong to complain it.
Can't even try to explain it.
But it's gonna be big.
God is gonna blow your mind.
God is about to blow my mind.
Yeah. God's gonna.
Open the windows of heaven. Pour me out a blessing.
You won't have room.
Be wrong to complain it. Won't even try to explain it.
Why?
But it's gonna be big.
God is about to blow your mind.
God is about to blow my mind.
Hey, and it's gonna be. It's gonna be. It's gonna be big. It's gotta be big. Lord, let it be. Hey. My future is big. My destiny's big. My blessing is big. My promise is big. The new job will be big. My future is big. Lord, let it be big. And it's gonna be. Hey, God is about to blow your mind. God's gonna.
Open the windows of heaven.
He's gonna pour.
Pour me out a blessing.
I won't have room.
Won't be wrong to contain it. Won't even try to explain it.
Why?
But it's gonna be big.
God's about to blow your mind.
God is about to blow
Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you guys for joining tonight's Facebook Live from Disciples of Jesus Ministry. So, tonight's topic is money talks, okay? So, take a moment, real quick, like and share this video. Tag somebody that you know that might be an entrepreneur, that might be an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody that's just in a working class family, anybody. Just tag them because we got some information that we want to share with everybody. So, right where you are, if you could just let us know where you're watching from. Are you at home? Are you in Thomasville? Are you in Atlanta? Are you in Florida? Like, where are you? We'd love to know. We'd love to know. So I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce myself while you guys are sharing and liking. Hey, start a watch party. You can do anything. We just want everybody to know this information, whether they watch now or later. But notify your people, okay? All right, so my name is Brianna Butler. I'm currently the worship leader at Disciples of Jesus Ministries. That's where most people may know me from. But I'm also a partner and accountant at BFT and Accounting Tax Services. So on tonight, we're just going to talk about all things business, finances. We might have some tax stuff we might add in there. All of this stuff that's been going on with COVID. We just want to keep our community as informed as possible. So, like here at our church, our mission is to minister the whole gospel to the whole person throughout the whole world. And one of the ways that we can do that is to keep our community uplifted, informed, whether it's about finances, about your health, about education, whatever we can do to try to help the people around us. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. If you're just tuning in, tonight's live is called Money Talks, and we're just going to talk about all things business. All right. So if we could start by just introducing our panelists. Ms. Mika, would you start now by introducing yourself?
Mika McCaskill, and I am a personal banker and TCF Community Ambassador for TC Federal Bank.
Awesome. All right. Mr. Brian?
Yeah, my name is Brian Dodd. I'm the Executive Director of New Ministry Partnerships for Enjoy Stewardship Solutions, and I run a website called briandoddonleadership.com.
Awesome. Justin?
Good evening. My name is Justin Massey. I'm a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual down here in South Florida, actually, but primarily work with folks all over Florida and Georgia as well.
Awesome. Mr. Melvin?
My name is Melvin Huggins. I'm a community reinvestment officer at Thomasville National Bank.
Cool. And Miss Katrina?
Hello, everybody. I'm Katrina Tillman. I'm one of the partners at Butler, Fleming, and Tillman Accounting and Tax Service here in Thomasville, Georgia.
Awesome. So great to have you guys tonight. We're so excited to hear your insight on business and whatever your expertise is. So let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and ask this particular question, right? But it's going to be for everybody. If you want to answer, it's pretty easy. How has COVID affected local businesses, like your local business, like in your industry? You can jump in whenever you want.
Well, y'all don't let me be the first one to talk. So COVID has affected, as we know, everyone's business, more so our food industries, because people are used to going in food places, sitting down and eating and having that one-on-one. So those type of industries have really been affected by this pandemic. In our industry, the service industry, as far as accounting services are concerned, we've still been able to do business. However, we're not able to be personal with our customers like we've been able to be in the past, because you have to keep 6 feet, and when you're talking about people's money, they want to be a little closer. So that's been our hang up, is not being able to be one-on-one with our customers, having to do more talking over the phone or over the computer.
Absolutely.
Brianna,
But anybody else? Go ahead.
I would agree with Katrina. I've been here at Thomasville National Bank since July. And one of the things that the bank prides itself on is the fact they have personal relationships and the ability to have personal conversations with their customers. And of course, COVID has changed that. So that has impacted the way we serve, the customers of our bank. So I think for the banking world, that probably has been a really big part. The lobbies are now closed or they allow a certain
Right.
number of people in.
Yeah.
And that has kind of changed. And I'm like I said, I'm new to this, but one of the things I think people have really enjoyed in the past is they get to know the tellers.
Yeah.
They get to know the people at the bank, and they become kind of a part of the family. So that has changed the dynamics for the banking world.
Absolutely. Would anybody else like to chime in on that?
Yeah, I would say in my industry, COVID's really been sort of a wake-up call for a lot of individuals, that are thinking, hey, what if this happens again? Am I prepared? Do I have the right things in place, whether it's, on the insurance side or planning for themselves for retirement? So it's been, a wake-up call for a lot of people as far as, making sure they have the correct things in order in their financial lives.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So let's jump right into this. What's been the biggest change you've had to make personally or professionally since March? Like, how are you having to lead differently, whether it's at your job or even at home?
Yeah, I'll tackle that one. I've made 3 significant shifts in how I lead my team. Number one, I focus on mental illness first, and here's what I mean by that. A lot of times, as leaders and people in the marketplace, you can become very task oriented, and you lead with the task or the process or the project or the return on investment, and then, oh yeah, how are you doing? And I start out every meeting now with the how are you doing, because of the rise in anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, all of those type of things. So I focus on the mental side of leading more than I ever have before. Another thing I've done as leaders, we're always taught you want to move people to a place of discomfort. You want to get them out of their comfort zone, because that's where growth happens, innovation happens, creativity, stretching, things like that. And so you've always taken comfortable people and moved them to a place of strategic discomfort.
Mhm.
I've changed that. Everybody's already in a state of discomfort.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to do now is take uncomfortable people and strategically move them to a place of comfort. So that way they can play to their strengths. They can get some wins under their belt. They can feel, success and like they're accomplishing something, and then continually build on that. And then the third thing I'm doing is I just teach leadership basics now to people. I don't try to get too complicated. I don't try to outthink the room. Everything you need to know to be successful in this world, you primarily learned in kindergarten and on a sports field. So I just continually hammer home those concepts. So COVID has really dramatically affected how I lead my team.
That's absolutely true. That sounds great too. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Professionally, I've just tried to raise and maintain a higher standard of customer service. Want to let our clients know that even though the doors are closed, we are here, we are working, we are available to them. All they have to do is reach for us and we'll be right there with schedule appointments only. But we're also available by phone, by text, by email, online banking. We're here, and we want our clients to know that.
That's great. Yeah, because right now, because like the more COVID has come around, it has kind of like exposed what things people have not done well or what we need to do better. And I think the more tasks we have to do, we do get really consumed with that. So it does take a moment sometimes to just say, okay, let me calm down for a second. Let me present myself to my client or my customer in a way that makes them feel comfortable, because they're uncomfortable just like I'm uncomfortable. So I think it's very, very important to make sure that we maintain our customer service and what we do. That's really, really wise. So I know because of COVID, the government has placed the CARES Act in place for small businesses and even just for individuals to help out as best that they could, to make sure that we all stay afloat as far as the economy is concerned, and just being able to take care of ourselves, and our families and our houses. So Katrina, could you speak about what SBA programs and what have been out or that are still out that CARES put in place to help small businesses and individuals?
Okay, so through SBA.gov, for those of you all who want to go check that website out, there are several programs that are out there. So the ones that are being talked about now are the payroll protection program, which is also called the PPP program. That ended on last week, but that was through your local bank. The current program, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is also called the EIDL loan. That's through SBA, which you apply for online through SBA. If you're a small business, sole proprietor, independent contractor, even your local churches, you can apply. Nonprofit organizations, you can all apply for that EIDL loan. That loan currently is because we're in a pandemic. There's other loans that are also on the SBA website, your 7A, your bridge loans. Those loans have always been there through SBA. So they've always been a bridge for you to use with your local bank to try to get funding. So you want to go check those out as well on the SBA website.
Sounds good. I know with some of those loans, a lot of them, where a lot of people have questions about whether they were forgiven, were they grants, were they loans? Can you speak about what part was a grant, what part was a loan, if any of it was forgiven or not? What's the process on that?
Okay. All those loans are loans. I have two banker people on here that will say
Absolutely.
loans are loans.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the initial plan, when the bank issues you a loan, they want their money back. Okay. However, with the PPP program, that payroll protection program, it was set up to be a forgiven loan. So once you met their criteria, which was you could use it for a list of items, majority of it was payroll, rent, utilities, certain mortgage interest, other insurance needs. They had a list of things that you could use that loan money for. And if you used it properly, there was a form you have to fill out once you receive that money in order to get that forgiven. So it's still a process. So for those of you all who did get the PPP loan money, please make sure you follow back up with your bank, because there is a document you need to fill out so that you can get that loan forgiven, because it was a 5-year loan. The EIDL loan was initial money was an advance that they were given that was forgiven for your employees for payroll. However, that money ended, I think it was like mid-July. They ran out of money.
Mm-hmm.
So they stopped offering the advance, and you could only now get a loan. However, it's a 30-year loan, 3.75% interest rate. First payment's not due for 12 months. I think it's great already. So I'm sure those of you all who are business owners, churches, any of that, who have that need, because your initial need is that you are trying to stay in business, you should apply and look into it.
Absolutely. Somebody asked what was that website, and it's SBA.gov. SBA.gov is that website. All right, Katrina, could you speak also about maybe the unemployment? How was that working? What did the CARES Act do as far as PUA, unemployment? Can you speak to that some as well?
Okay, so your unemployment through the CARES Act only because we're in a pandemic, is the unemployment was opened up to self-employed individuals and independent contractors through what we call the Pandemic Unemployment Act. That's the PUA program. That money is coming from federal funds.
Okay.
So that was a temporary process. That was the check you all were getting. That was the $600 extra a week. That was the PUA money. And so, like I said, because of the CARES Act and because we're in a pandemic, that was a special portion of unemployment that people were receiving. The regular unemployment which is through your state unemployment, is based off of whatever income or whatever criteria you had to meet in order to receive the regular state unemployment. So some people received 2 checks. Some people only received the 1 check, which was the PUA check for unemployment. But it was still a great opportunity to try to help people kind of stay afloat and do what they needed to do to still be able to take care of their household needs.
Absolutely. Could you speak to, I know a lot of people at this point has gotten the unemployment, and a lot of them may not really know how that's going to affect maybe their tax return for next year, knowing whether unemployment is in fact taxable or not, whether they should have gotten it, gotten some federal withholding or state withholding. Can you speak to that?
So your unemployment is taxable. It will show its little ugly face again. So, and it will show up on a 1099 form. So definitely don't think just because you may not have gotten it in the mail, the form in the mail by January, February of next year, you will file taxes on that unemployment. So if you chose not to allow them to withhold federal or state unemployment, so just keep that in mind when you get ready to file your taxes because you did not have anything paid in at that time, but it is taxable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with those different, loans and grants and different things that, were put out there to help small businesses, do we know, I guess I'll ask Miss Mika this, were there some small businesses or even just in our community were people here able to get government aid? Is that something that our community was afforded? I think your mic is muted.
I was saying absolutely. We processed hundreds of loans. Millions of dollars were given out in local businesses in our areas. For this area, TC Federal Bank, our friends at Thomasville National Bank, where Mr. Huggins works, and also Synovus Bank were largely involved in making sure that businesses and nonprofits in our community were able to get those funds and have them processed and those funds delivered to them so that they can keep their businesses open, because a win for businesses and small businesses, nonprofits, is a win for us. So we wanted to make sure that folks had what they needed and wanted to see people stay employed, see businesses stay open. But yeah, we did receive millions of dollars in this area.
Awesome.
If you
Brianna,
did those things that Katrina spoke of, there wasn't, it wasn't just automatically deposited. You had to, fill out an application. You had to go through the processes of those local institutions, as well as meet the requirements of the SBA. So it wasn't automatic. You did have some
Right.
legwork to do on your end, but yeah, they did.
Awesome.
yeah, Brianna, I'd add to that. I'd say it speaks to the testament of the small businesses here in Thomasville. They cared for their employees. They reached out and they were looking for every option possible to try to provide for them during this time. So I would agree with Jamaica. That was, a great resource. Our bank was able to help, and being local banks, Thomas County Federal, Thomasville National Bank, being able to really support people locally meant, a great deal to this community.
Absolutely. That's so great. We have great banks here. So let's shift just a little bit. This probably could really affect whether you are a business owner or not, just a regular individual. Why is it important to be financially literate? Like, what are some ways that we can evaluate our financial health? Mr. Melvin, would you like to speak to that first?
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the things to keep perspective on, even during this difficult time, is that the having knowledge and understanding of how to use money is stewardship. God gives us money to use in a way that He's asked us to use it. And I think it's very important to keep perspective even during this difficult time. People have lost jobs, had to go into savings that they did not plan to go into. Some people reached into retirement. And so it just has made it a very challenging time. But, one of the things I try to keep in mind, and I'm taking a little left turn right here, and this is just a Bible verse that I think that kind of frames the idea of being financially literate and also being a good steward. And it's Matthew 6:20. And it says, "Store up your treasures in heaven. Your heart will always be where your treasure is." And I think it's important to keep in mind, in the perspective of providing for your family, in the perspective of making sure, your family has what they need. It's really important to keep I guess, a 40,000-foot view as well as to how you are using that money to support others, especially during this time. You know, the tendency is to pull back, take care of your family or take care of our families and not really reach out to look at others. But there are a lot of people in need.
Yeah.
And if we're financially healthy and able to sustain, through this difficult time, God's giving us an opportunity to support others as well. So I think being financially literate, like I said, just means kind of keeping a wide view on how that money, being a good steward of what God has given us. And if that has been adjusted during the time of a pandemic, really being wise about how we use that.
Absolutely. Would anybody else like to speak about that? Why is it important to be financially literate?
I'll speak on that. Financially, being financially literate and managing your personal finances is so important. It grants so much of a foundation and so much stability to your everyday life. It's so important to know what you have, where you are financially, so that you can plan and do things and execute your everyday living, from groceries to paying your car note to paying your mortgage or taking care of your rent, and seeing about your kids. It's so important to make sure that you manage that well. I think the Bible says, I don't know the scripture, unlike Mr. Melvin, the Bible says that we are to look well to our cattle. Well, we're no longer an agricultural society, solely agricultural based society. So the same thing would translate to looking well to your accounts, knowing what funds you have and using them judiciously. One of my favorite Bible stories and Bible characters is Joseph in the Bible. And the thing I love about Joseph is, number one, he had a prayer life, which means he was communicating with God and God would communicate with him. And God gave him the wisdom to know that the season was about to change, and seasons do change. He made him aware that there was a pandemic or there was a famine coming in his ancient time. And what I love about Joseph is he didn't wait till the pandemic was there or the famine was there. It was what he did in the 7 years prior to the famine arriving that protected him during the famine. Because of his stewardship, he was able to save himself, his family, and the world, the known world at the time. And I think it's so important. I would like for people to continue to do the same things during the pandemic that they did prior to, namely, living beneath your means. Live on 80% of your take home pay. If you take home $40,000 a year, live on $32,000. Use those other funds for giving. You want to be full of generosity. I, as a believer and follower of Christ, I practice tithing and offering. So I give a tenth, at least a tenth and more to my local church. And I didn't stop doing that because we were in a pandemic. Because I think by those practices, and I've done that at every income level, from when I was 14 on a part-time summer job, making less than $400 a month, till now when I have a considered salary. I think that's important because it places you under an open heaven, and it gives you an open pipeline to God and his wisdom and direction for what you need to do in times like these. The other 20% I would dedicate to, number one, you need an emergency savings. If you're a beginner, you need to have at least $1,000 set aside for emergencies like a flat tire or, car breakdown. You don't want to have to reach to credit cards or personal loans for that. You want to be able to take care of those immediate needs. And that way, long term, you want to have 3 to 6 months of savings saved up 4 times like this. Because, when jobs go or when you're laid off, you want to have money stored up so that you can pull from those so that your life doesn't have to stop. And then beyond that, on the 80%, you want to make sure that your shelter, your home, your rental property, where you rent is no more than 30 to 35% of your income, your take home pay, your food, 14%, your transportation, 15%. If you'll keep those big 3 in their parameters, then it's easier to manage the rest of what you have to buy. And another thing I would say, get out of debt. By all means, try your best to get out of any kind of credit card debt, any kind of personal loans, consumer debts. You want to streamline your lifestyle. And lastly, I would say, don't worry about trying to impress anybody about what you dress, how you dress, what you drive, where you live. Live within your means, beneath your means, so that you can live life well, have peace of mind, and protect your pockets.
You said a lot.
Yeah.
And all of it was great. You touched, yeah, that was awesome. Justin, would you like to speak a little bit about that, like with the basic money management practices that a family could take, during this time? Do you have some suggestions as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of going off the financial literacy point, it really just gives you, a foundation as far as, what you should be doing and frankly, what you shouldn't be doing as well. It could be as simple as, keeping a budget sheet. A lot of people have their money coming in and money going out, but if you ask them to list it off, they really don't know where it's going. So having a full understanding of, I'm having, my rent go here, car insurance go here, whatever their main expenses are, as well as knowing where that, discretionary money's going as well, because a lot of people have some overlap or some excess, and, that'll be out the window if you don't account for it. So understanding, on a monthly basis, what's coming in versus what's going out goes a long way. As far as the pandemic, I really have two answers for that. So, if you're in an industry where you've been negatively affected by the pandemic, it really gives you opportunity, to take a step back and say, to keep everything going steady, what can I take away from myself? So obviously we need to, keep our necessary expenses there. We can't change those. But, the discretionary, the fun money, the things
Right.
that can wait, that aren't a necessity, that's something that maybe could take a step back on and wait till things get back in order before utilizing those. And then on the flip side, those who maybe have been in the industry where it's excelled in the pandemic, whether, I have a couple clients who are in, the food business, groceries, so they, cater to grocery stores, so they've exploded. So use that extra money and that extra success to put towards bettering yourself. So if you've been, putting X amount away on a monthly basis, why not double that at this point in time? Instead of saying, hey, I'm making more money, let me spend it on, whatever it may be. Put yourself in a position where, maybe you're not so lucky. The next pandemic may affect you, or the next thing that comes about. That way, you're fully prepared to take on anything that can come about. But really, I would say those are the main two, just evaluating how you, survived through this. If it hasn't affected you too much, hey, you're doing the right things, that you can do more. If it's been negatively affecting you, you can understand, hey, I need to better prepare myself for the future, for the next time it will happen. We don't know when or what it will be, but we all know things come about. So it's going to be something that, we all need to be prepared for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Brianna,
I'll,
can I add something to that Justin was saying? Because we're talking about people who have been affected by the pandemic, but there are some people who also have been affected that lost their jobs,
Yeah,
that don't have income at all. So
right.
they're not feeling when we're talking about saving money
right.
and trying to get out of debt. But to encourage those people who have lost their jobs, who don't have any income coming in, this is the time for you to take time and think about what you may want to do other than going back to work. You may want to start a new business. You may want to write some books. You may want to go back to school. This is the time that you could possibly do that. And there's funding, there's money available for you to do that.
Yeah,
So don't feel discouraged about the fact you don't have a job or your job is only working you 10, 20 hours a week. Reach out to someone and find out what you can do to get the income you need to work on that dream you have, that next level of getting to what you want out of this life.
Absolutely.
Brian, I'm going to add to that. I think
Sure.
Justin and Katrina had some great points, and I'm going to steal a page here from Brian's book. There's a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And one of those laws is the law of navigation. And this is
Right.
what it says: anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And
Correct.
I think Katrina had a great point. You really have to take stock if you are in a place where you're not making the income that you used to make. And you just kind of have to evaluate what can you do to
Correct.
sustain through that time. And, we were talking about the loans the government is offering right now. A lot of those things are great. The unemployment's great. And I don't think this is a time either where you can say, I'm too prideful,
Right.
to
Absolutely.
pursue unemployment. If that is the option that you have to kind of, go with now, I would say it's a great option.
Yeah.
take that money and use it to get to a place, where you're comfortable, or you're back to a place where, you were before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
I would say just, don't lose perspective or don't give up just because of the fact you're not where you were,
Yeah.
prior to this pandemic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that everybody is taking notes because, listen, these panelists are dropping so many gems. So nobody can say they didn't know or they didn't have an idea. So tag somebody. Take a minute right now and go ahead and tag somebody. You might have thought of somebody while they were saying these things. Go ahead and tag somebody. Tag yourself if you need to. I'm here. I need to know what's going on. Take you some notes, get you a notepad, because this is some really good information. And we're wanting this information to be out on the forefront so that we can help our neighbor. We want to help our neighbor because we want to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. We would want somebody to tell us this
Right.
if we was in this situation. So this is one of the ways that we love God back is by loving his people. So just really take a moment, tag somebody. If you haven't shared, share it. Send us some hearts, whatever you need to do. But we just need to make sure you're engaged and that you're getting this information. All right. So next question real quick. This probably could be for Mika or Melvin. What are the banks? What are our local banks doing to kind of just help our citizens in this area with financial literacy or just trying to be more financial literate? Is there some classes that I can sign up for? Is there some pamphlets I need to grab? Either one of you guys can jump in there.
Am I going first, Mr. Melvin? Okay.
You go right ahead.
All right.
Ladies first.
Thank you. We would love for you to contact us. I live, sleep, eat, and breathe personal finance. I love sharing information with folks about how they can better themselves and how they can tweak what they already have established to grow and to develop and be a boss when it comes to their own personal finance. I think it's important. Things that you should know. You shouldn't be surprised by what the loan officer tells you when they run your credit. You should already know, the ballpark of your credit score. You shouldn't be surprised when you have a charge come across your checking account or your credit card because you made that charge. You should know that. You should write those things down. I can tell you a great product that you can get at both TC Federal Bank and Thomasville National Bank is called a personal checking account. If you don't like checks, if checks scare you, you do not have to use checks. I think the last time I actually wrote a physical check was back in March to my local church, but then we decided we like to give online or give in an app. So haven't done that in a minute. So I use a debit card all the time, but I still take a few moments at the end of every week and write those things down, subtract them from my balance so that I know where I am. Some people choose to do that twice a month. Some people choose to do that once a month, but I'd rather take 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the week instead of an hour at the end of the month and just keep an eye on what I'm spending. If you have a checking account, you have a written way of managing your monies from which you can develop a budget, from which you can look back and see, okay, I'm spending heavily over here. I need to cut back, or I'm spending not enough over here, or I could be saving these funds and I'm just kind of throwing away because they're not purchasing things that are sustainable. Or that's adding value to your life and your portfolio. So, and when I say portfolio, I'm not just talking investments like what Mr. Massey offers, but also just your everyday lifestyle. So you want to make sure that you know well what you're doing, and come see us, ask questions, call us. We'll be glad to take a few moments and help you out. I think every time I see someone under the age of 25 who comes to open an account, I kind of give a mini lesson because I want them to be further along when they're my age than they are than I am. And there's no need for them to knock their heads up against a wall or have a hard time at it. Just learn by observation so you don't have to go through the hard knocks.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, I would agree with Jamaica and everything that she said. I think one of the things in the world we live in today is we started to take it for granted, but technology is such a powerful tool. There are a couple of websites that I think are very powerful. And these websites are Christian-based websites. They give great financial information. They have great financial resources. And one of those sites is moneyfacts.com. moneywise.org. Moneywise.org. And they also have podcasts. And those two guys are really good at just dealing with practical aspects of financial literacy. And they actually, if you listen to the podcast, they have people who are calling in who ask questions that normal people would ask, and they answer those questions. So it's a great resource, and that's moneywise.org. And like I said, there are podcasts that also go along with that. And another site to keep in mind is the Crown Ministry site. It is very powerful as well and has great resources for just financial literacy knowledge, getting out of debt. They have counselors that you can talk to. And so there are just a number of resources. That was just two, but there are a number of resources that are out there that are designed to help people make better financial decisions and make people more financially literate.
Hey, Brianna, let me throw in, and Melvin's given some great websites. Another one is iwasbrokenowimnot.com. And no apostrophes or no period, just iwasbrokenowimnot.com. Joe Sangle runs that, and they've got dozens and dozens of free downloadable financial tools, including a budgeting tool, which my family uses. They do a Monday morning tip that you can get on his podcast, his email list, Facebook page, and just an incredible resource, and a lot of great books if you're wanting to get some low-cost books and materials, and unbelievable small group material as well if you was wanting to start a small group with some friends to help you with budgeting and investing.
That's awesome.
And Brianna, most of those sites have YouTube resources as well. So hypothetically, if we were to shut down again and go back and you couldn't get out and you're stuck inside watching, trying to figure out something to do, there are great YouTube resources as well. A lot of those people are on YouTube, or they've recorded a session that you can watch, and it's just really good and rich information.
That is so great. You guys are spitting facts. So like I said, guys, nobody should leave here uninformed. Okay, we all know how to use our phones. We all know how to go get on the computer. So it won't take long for you to get on these websites. There's your tools right there. All right.
Also,
Okay.
Brianna, also, I'm cracking up over some of these comments and questions over here in the chat room, but Mr. Melvin hit a nerve because I love Crown Financial and I love MoneyWise. I listen to him all the time and I use the website all the time. Someone, I think it was Pastor Denny Blake, asked, checkbook, what is that? If you don't like the paper version, I think you could also use mint.com as well as your bank's online banking platform. But keep in mind that those only show transactions that have posted, in other words, that have hit your account. So if there's that shopping trip that you didn't tell nobody about that you went to, you're going to need to know that's coming, even if it's not showing up in that moment of time. So there are some other apps like mint.com is one I use, and also creditkarma.com, just as to stay abreast and know kind of where my credit score is. But yeah, those are great. And that the name of that website that Mr. Dodd gave sounds like the hashtag for my life. So I'm going to be looking at that. That was cool.
That was cool. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, did you want to say something else, Mr. Melvin?
Oh, no. I was just saying, yes, that's a great point.
Oh, okay. All right.
Someone asked about the age. What age does their teenager have to be to?
Uh-oh, she got stuck. Well,
To open that probably.
yeah, probably open a checking account. I don't know. But listen, what we'll do the Q&A towards the end. So we'll make sure that you have that answer before we're done. All right. All right, cool. So I want to ask this question to Justin. What are some investment strategies that can be implemented during a pandemic? Is there something that we should be doing now because of the way the economy is? if we have the extra money, is there something that we can be doing right now to invest?
To answer that question, I would say if you've been currently doing, any sort of investment plan that's been working, stick to it because, this is only temporary. Most people's first thought when, there's trouble coming is to, okay, I got to stop what I'm doing. I need to hold on to my money because I don't want to lose it. My personal philosophy around it is, with any type of investments, you haven't lost any money to the point that you sell it or you sell out of your positions. So any gains, any losses are really like it's phantom money until the point in time when you need it. So I always give the example if someone has, $50,000 in their account and it goes up to $100,000 the next day, they didn't make that 50 grand until they take that $100,000 out. The same way as if someone has 50 and it goes down to 25, they didn't lose 25 until they take that money out. So the longer you stick with what you're doing, it ultimately is going to come back and then some. It's really good a way of letting things run its course. But I would say if anyone has an investment plan that they've been doing, stick to it. Don't freak out too much and pull your money out because it's going to affect you later down the line. You won't see it now, but you'll miss out on all the gains that you could have earned in the time where the market was a little bit low. You're consistently buying in, so you'll get more for your money currently. And then the second way too is I personally, for my clients, I utilize mutual funds. So what mutual funds are is a way to pool everyone's money together, so you get access to big mutual fund companies. So it's professionally managed. So it's very, very secure, and it gives you access to a broad range of different stocks and securities over a bunch of different industries. So that way you're getting access and you're diversifying yourself and you're mitigating the risk as well because it's spreading it over a bunch of different things. If a lot of people use, their own accounts. I see someone in the comments saying like Acorn and Robinhood, things like that. Those are good, but it's a lot harder to, try and handpick individual stocks and securities just because nobody really knows. No one knows, from one year to the next how different things are going to do. So as a long-term investment strategy, utilizing mutual funds mitigates your risk a little more. It diversifies you and puts you in a position where you can get access to, a broad range of different industries that you may not be able to do, as just an individual investor.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, we're going to take a quick shift. So I want to ask this question to Mr. Brian. What are the top challenges that you have seen for like pastors and church leaders during this time?
Yeah, it's never been more difficult to be a pastor. And so I think everybody on here, I think most of you, Pastor Blake is your pastor. Some of you that it may be someone else, but here's the main reason why it's difficult during this time. Pastors have never had to lead through a global pandemic before. And what we're seeing nationwide is no matter what decision a pastor makes, there's a large percentage of people within his church or her church that vehemently disagree with that decision. For instance, you and I, Brianna, were talking before we got started that you're meeting 2 out of every 4 Sundays. Well, I'm sure there's people in the church who are like, why don't we meet every Sunday? Or it's not safe. Why are we meeting 2 Sundays? And why, and do we wear masks or don't we wear masks? And just no matter what decision is made, it just faces strong opposition. Like on the north side of Atlanta where I live, churches have selected a certain date to reopen. So I'm just going to pick a random date, August 26th. Okay. They will face immediate opposition to that because, well, why not August 19th? Why not September 4th? What's so special about August 26th? So it's just a situation that pastors cannot win. And here's another thing too. Pastors are naturally incredible shepherds. And there was something said earlier, I think by Mr. Melvin and being with students. They want to be with their people. They want to serve their people. They want to minister to their people. They want to be there when they're sick, and they can't do it. And so right now, we are just really praying for pastors at a deeper level than we ever have, stepping in for that, encouraging them, and encouraging the people within their churches to also show supernatural grace, supernatural patience. And just like you take the long-term view with your money that was just being talked about, also take the long-term view in terms of relationships, individually, both with your church as well as your pastor, and just understand they are facing a situation now none of us were ever equipped for, including them.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Pretty tough. So it's very important for all of us to we got to pray. We got to pray for our pastors. We got to cover them because they ain't never done this before and we haven't either. So we have to extend that grace to them as though we want them to do the same for us. So what are some components of an effective culture for a church or businesses at this time, Mr. Brian?
Well, if you're looking at the subject of culture, and I'm sure everybody on this panel can speak to that, and we hear the term culture a lot, like that location has a healthy culture, or that's a successful culture. Culture has now become kind of a catch-all buzzword, but let me define culture as I see it. And what culture is the daily convergence of character, creativity, and competence in a certain organization that daily drives behavior and success. And that's a very loaded statement, and it's a half-day workshop. But here's what I just want to say about that, and then some of the other panelists can jump in. But competence is your skill set. What are you good at? What have you been equipped to do? What are you learning to do? And this is a great time during this pandemic to develop new skills and new talents and abilities. The second thing is character. Competence is the ability to do something. Character is God has equipped you to be the type of person who can do something.
Right.
Okay. And the best way to oversimplify it, the best way to build character is daily quiet times. Start every day with God. First 30 minutes to an hour, it frames the day. It positions your mind for a godly and successful day. And the third thing is creativity. And, I'm 54. I'm about to show my age, but I tell my daughter all the time, creativity is not skinny jeans, ripped jeans, a low V-neck, and a scarf and messed up hair. Okay. That's style. That's not creativity. Okay. Creativity is the ability to look at age-old problems that we have faced every day and figure out new and creative solutions within our new context to address those problems. So if you're the type of person that God can use, if you've got the skills and ability to address issues, and you've got the creativity to figure out how to move forward in this new normal, if you've got enough people in your organization who have that mentality and that skill set, you're going to have a very healthy and successful culture.
Right.
Absolutely. Did anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah.
Because he said it all. You did good.
It did.
You did really good. All right. So we're going to go ahead and enter into our Q&A portion. So we'll just take some of those questions. So if you got some questions, it's the perfect time to go ahead and put them down in the chat. I know you've probably been talking as we've been going, but anyway, so here we go. How old does a student have to be to open up an account, a bank account? Do you recommend this as a start for becoming money literate?
I think I got cut off last time. And what I was saying is here, a student can open an account at the age of 16 as long as an adult parent is on the account with them. And that's a checking account. Now, savings accounts, you can start those at birth almost.
Right.
Uh-oh. Did it happen again? Oh, no. You go ahead, Mr. Melvin. Yeah, you can go ahead and finish.
I was going to say I'll step in until Tamika can get back. But I know recently, and that's a great question, by the way. Recently, we opened accounts for my kids who are 11 and 7. They were savings accounts, but just to establish the idea of financial literacy with them prior to opening those accounts, and also as part of opening those accounts, so they can see the benefit of saving. So I would say, you're never too young to at least have a savings account so you can look at the principles of saving money. But for the checking account, it's 16 years
great.
old, with a parent being
Gotcha.
involved in that.
Great. Next question, please. What should I offer a potential investor? How much money / equity should I share with potential investors? Justin, you think you want to speak to that one, or anybody really?
Yeah. So that one, it really depends on what you're looking for. So a lot of the clients that I work with who are, business owners, and let's say they have outside investors that's doing anywhere from, maybe as low as 5 to all the way up to maybe 20, 30, 40% that they're offering that person down the line. So it really just comes down to how much, equity they're putting in it themselves as an outside investor. So, the more money they're giving you to get it up and running, to get your business operations going, the more they're going to want on the back end. So it really just depends on how much money that you're looking to, essentially take from that individual to enhance your business. So later down the line, they get that back. So it really depends on how much money that you're looking to utilize in that individual person. And say if they're going to give you a lot of money to go out and make it work, they're going to expect that they have a pretty good share in what's to come from that.
Absolutely.
Can I add something on investors? Sure. When it comes to asking people to invest in your idea, I would do a reference check on them just like I would someone else. How does that person handle themselves in the boardroom?
Mm-hmm.
How does that person handle themselves when you have a dip in the company's performance? How do they operate during lean times? I would ask a potential investor for references, and I would check those references. In terms of how much equity you give up, of course, everybody, and the other panelists may want to dive in on this, everybody wants to keep at least 51%, so they can have the final say if it comes to that point. But here's the one thing I'd like to say about that. Depending on the size of the company you build, you may have less than 51%. Here's what always wins. Competence, regardless of the amount of equity you own, always has the final say. So if you're the expert in your arena, in your craft, own your business, regardless of how much equity you have, you will be the final say in all important decisions if you have the competence to do that.
Correct. And just to add to that, it's okay to ask a person who's wanting to invest in your business, ask them what their expectations are. Ask them what are they expecting from this business, the outcome, the production, the goals. Just ask questions, and that helps you get to know that person who's wanting to invest in your business, because you should be of like mind and want the same thing, the same outcome in that business success.
Absolutely. Those are really great answers, guys. Great question too. If I were to open a business, is there a formula that could help me calculate how much money I would need?
Want me to answer that?
Go for it.
I wouldn't say there's a formula. However, you should sit down with someone. And just a quick plug, we do offer this at BFT Accounting and Tax Services there in Thomasville. But there's no formula, I would say, but there is a budget. First off, like we've been saying, that you need to sit down and do that budget for your business, so that we can be able to work the numbers, look at what the industry is, how much the return has been recorded of that industry. Really sit down with someone that can tell you, this is how well or not this business has been doing. This is how much money you could probably expect to make based on what you want to charge for your service. So sit down with someone and really put that together, and you all will come up with what your need is to start business.
Brianna, I'll add to that. I know one of the things I've had a chance to do is meet with local entrepreneurs who are looking to start small businesses. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that the officers are asking for when they are approached about the idea is a business plan. And
Right.
that business plan has to have all the details that Katrina was just discussing. So I would definitely say have that already, some kind of figures already determined before you approach, the bank about supporting that small business.
Yeah, they're
And
definitely
have it for an investor.
Yep.
Yeah.
sounds good. They're definitely going to ask about a projection. All right. So next question: what happens now? Am I able to borrow using my 401c3, 401k as collateral / emergency loan? Anybody want to speak to that one?
It depends on what type of 401k they have. I guess what they're trying to ask is, could they use their 401k to withdraw money for their emergency fund? It depends on the type of 401k you have, and if it's still under your current job or if it's outside your job with the private industry. So it really depends on what type of 401k you have. But most 401ks will allow you to borrow against them.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on the type it is. You just need to ask that question to whoever you're funding your 401k with.
Great question. It seems like my small business can't grow unless I go full time, but I'm not sure that I can afford to go full time. How and when should I dive both feet in and go full time? Katrina laughs.
Because
Yeah,
I can
that's hard.
attest
I
to
don't
all
know.
this. Yeah, this is a decision. When you decide to go to be self-employed and to be your own boss, that's a decision. And there's no turning back from that. You're going to have trials, you're going to have all those things, hills, obstacles, whichever word, you want to use, but it's yours. That should be your focus, is that it's yours. No matter what comes, use your resources. Don't be scared to ask questions. But you can go full time whenever you make the decision.
Yeah. I'd add to that, Brianna. Here's a verse to kind of support what Katrina's saying. It says, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but
Mm,
diligent hands bring wealth." That's Proverbs
mm,
10:4. So
mm.
diligent hands bring wealth. So to step outside, if you feel that's where the Lord is leading you,
Yep.
make that step and trust Him in the process. But
Yep.
Katrina's right. That's just you just got to do it.
Yeah,
Yep.
you definitely just have to do it. One of the things that I guess I've been noticing a lot, though, especially like during this time, it's been a lot of small businesses or a lot of people that's just jumping out there wanting to be entrepreneurs, and almost kind of because it's like almost a last resort, but it almost give you a chance, like, you know what, it's now or never. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But one of the things about that, sometimes we're not totally informed when it comes
Right.
down to starting up those businesses and what all we need. So that's why it's very important to maybe hook up with some accountants or some lawyers, even people that you may know. And like at our business at BFT, we really try to cater to small businesses or people that are just starting up. Because we know you might not have all the money right away, but you need to know you need your federal ID number that comes from the IRS. You need to know that you need to either incorporate your business, or if you're doing an LLC, you need to, touch base with the Secretary of State, because you can't even open up a business account if you don't have those two things. You have to have your federal ID number, and you need to also have your Secretary of State information, so that it could be articles of organization or articles of incorporation, unless you are also a proprietorship. Which you can still get a federal ID number for that. But those are types of things you need to know, and need to know, like, if I'm going to start a new business, what's the best entity that I should pick for me?
Wow.
How is that going to affect my tax return? If I start as an LLC, that might be my business and it makes its own money, but I'm still going to be taxed on the profit of that money on my personal tax return. Those are things that you would need to know. So you need to make a well-informed decision when you decide, hey, I'm going to go full time. This is the only money that I have. You need to be able to, you need to know that in the beginning. So when it's time to file your tax returns, you won't be surprised, So those are very, very important things to know.
Wow.
And that's just a tidbit of it. Any other questions? Let's see. Okay. Would an educational account for your child interfere with them receiving college scholarships and grants?
I can answer that one. So the quick answer is yes, but not enough to where you wouldn't do it. It's a very small percentage. I want to take a look to be 100% sure, but I believe it's a little bit above 5% that it would reduce it by. So not much at all. So it's still, a great area, to put money away to be able to, counter the expenses that come with school. So whatever they would receive, on scholarship and grants, it would just basically add to what you have in your account. It wouldn't affect it to where they wouldn't be able to be eligible. They would still get it, would just be reduced by a little bit. But the trick is if it's owned by, in the student's name or the parent's name, it could get that reduction. But if a grandparent or any other relative owns it for that child, then it wouldn't be reduced. So it's a little trick, like, hey, if it's in a grandparent's name, they'd be able to get fully funded, fully scholarships, regardless. But if it's in the parent's name, then it would be reduced by that a little bit over 5%.
That was a really great question.
All right, I want to tell a story about that my daughter just graduated from college, like I said, and it breaks my heart to have to tell this story. I have a friend who started investing in that child education account. It's very similar to a 401k. And they started doing it the day their daughter was born. When the daughter was ready to go into college, her college for 4 years was completely paid. And here's the worst part for me. Great for him, terrible for me. 72% of that was compound interest. So compound interest paid for his daughter's college. And by the way, grandparents can invest in a grandchild as soon as a grandchild is born. So that child account that you can invest in, I missed out on it. I hate to say that. I won't miss out on it on my grandchildren.
And another tip on it too is if, let's say, you put money in that educational plan and your child decides, hey, I don't want to go to school, you can access that money for yourself. You pay a 10% penalty, but hey, it's some money that can go towards your retirement or your vacation, whatever it is. So you can still use that money. You pay a penalty, but if they didn't use it, you can either use it for yourself or transfer it to another kid.
Right. Or they could use it to buy their first home.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that'll be good too. All right, I want to go into business, but I don't really have any new ideas to start. What are some good small business ideas that are good for 2020?
Oh,
I don't know.
I have an app for that. Look, I'm going to keep throwing these little sharp plugs for Butler, Fleming, and Tillman Tax Services over in Thomasville on Fern Street for these business questions. But I seriously do have a list such as that that talks about businesses that you could possibly start in 2020. But first, what I will say on that is think about what's going on. Think about what people are doing more of now than they were doing. There's no one coming selling you products to your door. They're selling you products on the internet. There are some services that people are still doing. People are still going out buying groceries. Some are having groceries delivered. So just think about what's going on in this time we're in right now, and you'll come up with some business ideas. But otherwise, swing by and give us a call. We'll help you out.
Listen, either that or you're going to have to pray. You're going to have to ask the Lord. You're going to have to lay before the Lord and say, Lord, what innovative idea do you have somewhere that I can be a good steward over?
Exactly that. Praying. Hey, people need prayer. Mr. Dodd talked about it earlier about people with mental illnesses and folks can't get out the house. Be that prayer giver online or making phone calls, calling people and praying for them.
That works.
Somebody gonna cash app you.
Any other questions? Let's see.
Hey,
don't forget about the Spark Initiative here
about the Spark program.
For aspiring entrepreneurs. Contact Sharon Edwards or Harriet Jones or Keith McIntyre. So yeah, that's great too because they'll definitely put you in the right direction. What about 529 plans?
Yeah, so the 529 plan, that's the educational account we were referring to,
Right.
just for clarification.
I wonder what they mean by that. Because okay, well, any other questions?
Brianna, the bottom question to that, what age to start an account? The other question was that the earliest you want to start teaching kids about finance? My answer would be much earlier. At the moment, they can understand the difference between $1 and 5 and 10. I would start teaching them. I would do the 3 jars: the give jar, the save jar, the spend jar. And you would teach them to take 10% or a dime out of every dollar for their give jar. 10% for their save jar for them, and then the other they could spend. So you can start those practices as early as your child is able to cognitively understand the difference between spending and saving and giving. So for some that might be 5 years old, for others that might be 7. So it just those are just some basic foundational principles, because they're the same for every adult. You give, you save, you spend. So that would be a great teaching tool. You can make it fun. You can do decorative jars and all that jazz. So.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So, do you guys have any final thoughts? Anything that you want to wrap up so that the people can leave with, like, listen, this live blessed me tonight. Is there something anybody wants to say, or either all of you? It didn't matter.
I'll just add in closing out from my end. I think Mika has touched on some really good points regarding financial literacy, and I know one of the things that comes up is, have I waited too late to teach my child to be financially literate? The answer is no. I mean, you can start as young as you want to. My parents, I'm 49 years old, and my mom and dad still instill financial literacy in me, and I'm married with 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage. So I think it's important to say it's never too late. Don't forsake that. So if I had anything to add, financial literacy starts young, and it never stops.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
And whatever
All right.
business you want to start, make sure you're passionate about it and that you're not just starting the business because you're just trying to make some extra money. Have a plan and always make sure stay educated. Always use resources, always learn something new, and reach back and bring somebody with you. Don't climb that hill by yourself.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Good.
And Brianna, the only thing I would add is it's just kind of summarize what everybody has said. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead to harvest, as sure as haste leads to poverty. And so, this panel has been, as you said, just dropping gold everywhere in terms of how to develop a plan. And once you develop a plan, be diligent over time. I think Justin mentioned that earlier. Be diligent over time, and that leads, it's going to wind up in either poverty or profit.
Right.
I would really think out that it's the plan and the diligence that leads to the profit.
Absolutely. All right. Anybody else got anything to say before we close out? I guess not. Well, guess what, guys? I enjoyed tonight's live. I totally appreciate each and every one of you guys for lending your time, your insight. This was amazing. I'm probably gonna go back and watch it because there's some stuff that I needed to know too. So I hope that we can, all network, and not just with one another, but just with those in our community. This is so needed because we really want people's minds and hearts to be in a place where they can be at peace. And sometimes when they don't have, or when you don't have money, you spend a lot of time praying about that. But when you're settled and you're able to be a good steward of what you have, you can start praying about the next thing, maybe somebody else, or whatever you need to do. So I think this was a great live tonight. So guess what? We're gonna say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.